Hi, I'm Max Keiser. This is the Keiser Report. You know, war is over if you want it. Really? Yes, indeed. Stacy.
Well, many great people throughout history have said that. Certainly great thinkers, great singers, great artists, and great businessmen. Maybe this guy, not necessarily a great guy, but you know, he was a good businessman, and that is Henry Ford. 100 years ago, Henry Ford suggested that wars could forevermore be prevented if only there was a currency denominated in kilowatt hours. Question, does this sound like something that now exists? Hint, think Bitcoin. Time for a thread. And this is from a guy who had, he was a co-founder of Galloy, which is like that wallet being used in El Salvador. And he was responding to yet another piece of FUD from the New York Times where they were like, Bitcoin uses more electricity than many countries and that this is a bad thing. But what this thread is going to show is that that's actually a good thing, and exactly as Henry Ford and others, by the way, economists like Mises and Hayek and stuff like that were saying that energy-backed money, as well as Buckminster Fuller, were saying energy-backed money is the best option.
Right, exactly. The New York Times piece is formidably off the mark, right? Because think about it, Bitcoin's becoming the global standard, monetary standard, and it's being secured at the moment with less than 1/2% of all the energy produced on planet Earth. And we know that 25% of all the energy produced is wasted energy. So a very small, minuscule amount of wasted energy that just gets wasted, not used, is used to secure a monetary network that ensures that 8 billion people have individual sovereignty and monetary freedom. So it's incredibly efficient versus everything else that's come before it. Now, in terms of it being backed by kilowatt hours and Henry Ford's observation, it's absolutely true. And essentially, Bitcoin is a realization of that dream.
Yeah, and it's important to remember, you know, it's kind of off topic of the energy story, but the fact is that this is so unique in history in that you've had oil or you've had gold or you had central banks. And those were, some countries were uniquely endowed with that. And some countries, like with the central bank era, are uniquely endowed with a huge amount of force and violence that they can inflict on everybody else to use their currency. But all of them were either centralized in some way. We see that with Saudi Arabia and the US relationship at the moment. But Bitcoin is totally decentralized and totally distributed, and anybody, because of the way it uses energy, it can capture that stranded energy, and like places that were just left off the financial and banking and economic grid for centuries, decades, you know, that they could be put back on, that they don't need to now beg Washington, D.C. for some handouts to be sent to, like, say, somewhere in South Africa, which has one of the highest rates of renewable energies in the world, the solar power available to them should they wish to tap it. Like, you can capture that stranded energy now because of Bitcoin.
Right. You know, here on planet Earth, it's based on energy. It goes all the way back to the Big Bang, approximately 14 billion years ago. And we're still living on the trail of energy that was started back then. And there's nothing that doesn't use energy here on planet Earth. The question is, what are you using energy for, and can you use it more efficiently? Right now, all the energy used for the fiat money world, as you point out, is backed by violence, right? As the New York Times said, the US dollar is backed by violence. Mm-hmm. That was what Paul Krugman said, their columnist. And so Bitcoin is not backed by violence. There's no way you can coerce anyone to give you their private keys if it's properly secured. It's impossible. That doesn't even apply to gold. Gold is easily confiscatable, as has been done many times before. So the amount of energy required to secure global independence for 8 billion people is a minuscule of the energy used today to put out this fiat money system. And therefore, total energy usage on planet Earth by humans, as I've said now for a couple of years, as we go to a Bitcoin standard, the energy footprint for humans would be cut in half, at least.
Right, and we're going from empires to nation state and now to individual sovereignty. And there's, by the way, no more stranded energy than volcano energy, right? And El Salvador, which is one of the smallest economies on earth, is now the first to have a Bitcoin standard, and they're going to use their volcano energy, which is not only stranded, but abandoned usually. Nobody wants to live near a volcano, right? Like, who the heck wants to do that? Well, there you're going to be able to tap into that free, abundant, nothing, no force on earth is bigger than nature, right? And humans haven't been able to be as powerful as nature, and that energy is going to be tapped into. Now, back to Henry Ford, he said, one of the greatest businessmen to ever walk the earth, said Hunter, and below is a snapshot from the actual front page of the New York Tribune newspaper on December 4th, 1921. He said Ford would replace gold with energy currency and stop wars. Follow up on the tweet. In brief, Ford offers up the idea that all wars would be prevented with a currency based on energy usage. Quote, the essential evil of gold in its relation to war is the fact that it can be controlled. He said this in 1921. Break the control and you stop war.
Yeah. That's right. For the reasons we've been talking about, it's not backed by violence. It's backed by the monetization of peace, actually, when it comes to Bitcoin. And with energy, it is decentralized. You know, Buckminster Fuller said that planet Earth gets about 1,000 times more energy every day than it uses, right? There's a lot of energy around. The question is, how do you harness it and what do you do with it? And with Bitcoin, you're converting electricity into the hardest money ever known in the history of the world. And so once you do it, it can be used in perpetuity. And that has the ability essentially to distribute energy and energy usage down the granularity of that to a point where, in my view, where we're headed is a future where the whole idea of money itself changes radically. Because mostly what drives people's need or want of money is a perception of depravity. But once you're converting the energy, which is ubiquitous and infinite, into Bitcoin, all the fear of not having something or not having enough disappears. So we as a species evolve in this huge quantum leap enabled by Bitcoin. And I think in El Salvador, we're going to see something remarkable. We're going to see an economy take off. The GDP in El Salvador is about to explode higher, and that whole region's about to go fully Bitcoin, hyper-Bitcoinization, and that's going to filter up to some bigger countries. It's going to go global, and we're all living through something that is absolutely remarkable.
In terms of this, break the control and you stop war. Break the control of the money and you stop war. Henry Ford saw this. This is one of the shortcomings of gold, is that the vast majority of it is in the hands of the central banks, and they can do with it what they will. They control it, so they can make war wherever they want. Bitcoin is not controllable. Even somebody like Michael Saylor, who's just buying up billions and billions of dollars of it, Bitcoin has already proven in 2017 that no oligarch can stop it, because the algorithm and the distributed nature of it prevents that from ever happening. There's no one guy to appeal to. If you want the Fed to do something for you, flashback to 2008, in the middle of the worst part of the financial crisis in October. Who did Jim Cramer at CNBC appeal to? He appealed to Ben Bernanke, and Ben Bernanke listened. Print more money, lower rates, bail out the banks, and he did it, right? There's nobody to appeal to in Bitcoin. You can't, cause these imbalances. You can't interfere in the flow of the funds. You can't stop the network.